Okay, so we are very happy that we have with us today Prof. Georgia Pastorin, our head of department, and myself, Eric Chan, the deputy head of research, along with our fourth year farm science student, Johan, with us, and many other colleagues who are joining the session to handle the Q&A, as I mentioned earlier. So before we start the presentation, may I invite Prof. Pastorin to just say a few words?
Sure. Thank you very much, Eric. And hi, everyone. A warm welcome to the e-Open House 2026 on behalf of the Department of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences. We are really thrilled as well as honored to have you here join us for this exciting event. And we will take care of you in the next hour or so. And I think this is a fantastic opportunity for you to explore the dynamic world of pharmaceutical sciences, as well as discover the cutting edge research, the educational programs, as well as the innovative career paths that await you. So during our session, you will have the chance to hear from our esteemed faculty members, as well as our students, Wuhan, and learn more about our programs and initiative, and whether you are considering a future in pharmaceutical research, drug development, or you aspire to have wide exposure through industry attachments, this e-Open House is designed to provide you with valuable insights and answers to your question. So thank you for joining us today. So we hope that this experience inspires you and stimulates your journey in the field of pharmaceutical sciences. Enjoy the session. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Pastorin. I noticed that some new participants have joined the session, so I just want to welcome all of you again and highlight that if you have any questions along the way, please do not hold them back. Use the Q&A add function within the Zoom meeting. Type in your questions and our colleagues will respond to them interactively. So we are housed in the Faculty of Science under the College of Humanities and Sciences, and we are the only institute that provide education in both pharmacy and pharmaceutical science. And I would like to say that we are very proud because if you look at our latest QS ranking, we are top in Asia and we are number 8 in the world for pharmacy and pharmacology as a discipline. Specifically, our farm science program is delivered by a team of dedicated pharmaceutical scientists and educators who are trained worldwide in prestigious institutions, including NUS. Our farm science program, as briefly mentioned by Prof. Pastorin, trained pharmaceutical scientists, and they are qualified in various aspects of medical products, operating in areas that include but not limited to the discovery, development, manufacture, regulations, and utilization of medical products. And that's how we embrace the use of medicine to ensure that they are safe and efficacious when used in patients. So although we do not deal with patients directly, the end goal is to help people through medicine. This is a slide that shows the different undergraduate and postgraduate academic programs that we offer. And in this specific program talk, we shall focus on the undergraduate pharmaceutical science program. Here we offer the Bachelor of Science in Pharmaceutical Science Honours Degree Program, which is the only one of such kind in Singapore and was launched in 2018. In addition, we do run a second major as well as a minor in pharmaceutical science, which we will elaborate shortly. So as a primary major, pharmaceutical science is a direct admission in the College of Humanities and Sciences, which we will abbreviate it as CHS in our subsequent presentation. That is to say that you will have to state pharm science as your primary major at the point of your NUS application. Of course, it is also possible to pursue pharm science as a second major or minor, which as I mentioned, we can elaborate further. So how do pharm science courses interface with the CHS curriculum? As a recap, the CHS curriculum comprise 1/3 of common curriculum, as shown on the slide, 1/3 of major and 1/3 of unrestricted elective. So as a major department, we'll provide 15 courses in the essential areas of pharmaceutical science that will give you a head start to the industry. But on top of that, the student can actually decide if they want a more broad-based or specialized experience, as the program is highly flexible, as shown on this slide. So the entry requirements for Pharm Science as primary major for A levels, IB, NUS High School Diploma, you have to have good marks in chemistry alongside good marks for one of the major other sciences such as biology, physics, or math. For the polytechnic diploma graduate, it is dependent on the course, and more details can be found on our website. So for the second major requirement, it is shown here, eligible students may apply during the application window or restricted second major. And the application will be open every semester. And the latest date for the students to apply for the second major in the Pharm Science is by the end of the second semester of their study. Most importantly, we'd like to highlight that students who are interested in applying for the second major in Pharm Science should register to read the prerequisite Gateway course, PHS 1101, the billion-dollar pill bench to bedside drug development. Similarly, these are the requirements for entry into our minor program, which I will not elaborate in details, but nevertheless, we also want to highlight that students who are interested in applying for our minor program should also register to read the Gateway course PHS 1101, as I mentioned earlier. Our pharmaceutical science primary major program was launched in 2018 with a track record of high quality students enrolling into our program. We have graduated the first 3 cohort of students in 2022, 2023, and 2024 respectively. And since 2018, we have grown from a class size of 27 to now about 60 plus students. So our students are well-grounded with a firm foundations in bioorganic and medicinal chemistry, as well as in human medical sciences. And the depth of knowledge and the intricacies of pharma industry is covered by the pharmaceutical science niche that is unique in the program. And this is, as mentioned, delivered by our team of professors and industry lecturers. And our lecturers make sure we stay relevant and ahead of the learning curve. Also, we value the versatility comes with the program by equipping graduates with life skills and experiential learning opportunities that maximizes employability in diverse careers within and beyond the pharma industry. So you're probably thinking, what exactly does pharmaceutical industry entail? Do we really need to take a major to learn this pharmaceutical industry field? The answer is, of course, yes. It is highly complex and involves several distinct stages, as shown on the slide. We can trace the industry according to how a drug is developed. First, there is drug discovery. It begins with a problem, example, a disease condition, and then an idea to solve the problem. Then there are many aspects of research to uncover a suitable medication, typically a drug molecule, to address this issue. Subsequently comes the development, while we characterize the product further to see if they are safe and effective. And with some level of assurance, this development is then taken into clinical trials to make sure that the product are indeed giving us the desired responses in patients. And with that comes the delivery of the product, which is to take it through the regulatory process and finally is given to the patient. And with the approval by the regulatory agency, a large part of the industry will be devoted into scaling up the manufacturing, the quality assurance, distribution, logistics, sales, marketing, medical affairs, and so on. So while we put a lot of grammar into the beginning, which is the discovery part, and the end, which is the doctoring part. But to be very honest, everything that is in between is also just as important to ensure that the cure gets out there in the first place. And therefore, the expertise that's needed to drive this industry is diverse and deep. And the right people that can fit into this sector is what we consider as pharmaceutical scientists. Pharmaceutical science is very relevant to us in Singapore, and we are happy that it is relevant. As you can see here, we are home to more than 80 pharma and medical device manufacturing plants and a wide range of pharma company headquarters, many of them having regional bases and clusters in Singapore. Singapore's thriving biopharma ecosystem comprises top manufacturers of small molecules, biologics, drugs, vaccines, and other medical products. And it contributes a huge part to our annual GDP. So the pharma industry is definitely here to stay. I will not go through the details, but you can see from here, based on the news as advertised recently in the Straits Times, many pharmaceutical companies continue to invest in Singapore to develop drugs or their manufacturing facilities. And what this entails for our graduates will be job opportunities. Let's bring it back to the program now and allow me to elaborate our unique features in our pharm science classes. So first, relatively small class size, and this allows us to work in teams and not alone. We call this collaborative learning. And this will prepare you for the collaborative culture that is central to the pharmaceutical industry. Our instructors use flipped classroom and branded learning approach to drive active learning. So students are engaged in e-learning in preparation for active discussion during our interactive classes and collaborative learning workshop, as well as hands-on inquiry-based learning in our laboratory. To make it real, our students are guided to include experiential internship learning, which is credited and can be 3 to 6 months. And this exposure will give our students an understanding of the pharma industry and a head start in networking with key personnel in the industry and see how real-world problems are solved with the knowledge and skills they have acquired. We believe firmly in the integrated knowledge, as in higher learning, problems become complex, and we need to be comfortable in problem solving using different tools and information. So the suite of courses that major can look at will include topics that are taught not in silos, but it combines our knowledge in chemistry, physics, biology, etc. So for the first part, we will be introduced to courses that will have what we call the ABC elements of analysis, biology, and chemistry. And these foundational courses will then prepare us for deep pharm science knowledge. So the first course focuses on the central theme of drug receptor, drug target interactions, and will integrate chemistry and biology to allow us to understand this interaction. In the second course, we will integrate analysis and chemistry and focus on the physical chemical properties of drugs. We'll teach you how to synthesize drugs using different chemical reactions and how to analyze them accordingly in compliance to the standards required for the pharma industry. Last but not least, in the third course, we'll look at macromolecules to understand their synthesis, identification, and characterization for the biopharma industry. Take, for example, the challenge in developing mRNA vaccines. So mRNA issues are such as its poor stability and delivery. So the question is, how can we make sure that mRNA doesn't degrade during its manufacturing or doesn't degrade the moment it gets injected into our body? Hence, it's important to integrate knowledge to be able to solve such real-world pharmaceutical problems. And our pharm science program prepares our graduates for these challenges. So our graduates are also highly employable. About 50% of them are gainfully employed in the pharma industry or healthcare institution in a range of job functions, including but not limited to medical affairs, marketing, product innovation, project management, consulting, and so on. and also in different companies such as GSK, Sanofi, AstraZeneca, Lonza, just to name a few. Of mention, 40% of our recent graduates are pursuing PhD, MD studies in top universities overseas in UK and USA, and also locally. And some of them are in transition job naturally, working as research assistants while planning to pursue further study. And again, this is reflective of our students' high intellectual potential and aspiration. So I would like to leave you with 5 hallmarks of our Pharm Science program. First, it is a 4-year direct admission honors degree program. Second, the program is flexible and student-centric. Third, it is interdisciplinary, integrative, yet niche so that you can stand out in the crowd. Fourth, we are big on experiential learning. And fifth, our students are highly employable with enhanced career options across the industry and are also highly competitive in gaining admission to graduate schools, both overseas and locally. We have a vibrant student life, which I hope that our student representative Johan here will elaborate based on his personal experience. But in brief, we have 5 house systems to create their camaraderie across the years within the same house. And they do fun activities such as Red and Frag, orientation, community learning, and also international experience. So the best is to hear from our student who has experienced both the learning and also the vibrant student life in NUS Pharmaceutical Science. So what I'll do now is I will take a pause to introduce our student, Johan. He is currently a final year Pharm Science undergraduate with a second major in data analytics. He has taken part in overseas exchange at UCSD and research at A-Star BII. And his final year project explore ribosomal alterations in cancer. And in the future, he's interested in applying analytics to drive progress in the pharmaceutical sector. So with that, I will actually stop sharing and pass the time now to Johan. And then Johan will subsequently pass the time back to me, where I'll share 3 slides with QR code to make sure that you continue to engage with us even after today's briefing. And subsequently, we'll move on to the Q&A. But as a reminder, if you have any questions now, please use the Q&A app and type in your questions so that my colleagues can provide the answers as we go along. Okay, Johan, please take over.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Chan. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Johan, and I'm a final year pharmaceutical science student at NUS. And today I'll just be sharing a bit about my journey, how I ended up here, and what the experience actually looked like for me. So let me start from before I even applied. So in JC, chemistry was one of my favorite subjects. I took H3 chemistry, went for the Singapore Chemistry Olympiad, and I genuinely found this subject interesting, not just for the exams, but because I like to understand why things behave the way they do at a molecular level. But at some point, I was motivated to think about how the theory that I learned in class connected to something with real-world impact. So that's when I went to the NUS Pharmaceutical Science website and took a look at it more seriously. So I remember when I went through the website, what stuck with me was how many different domains it covered. So it wasn't just chemistry or biology, but terms that I've never even heard before, like formulation science, pharmacology, etc. Yeah. So at the time, I also wasn't very sure about what I wanted to specialize in, but I wanted a program where there were many directions that I could go. So when I actually started Pharm Science, the first thing I noticed was how different the content was to what I learned in JC. So there's a huge variety of coursework that covers a broad range of topics, such as pharmacokinetics, which is about quantitatively describing how drugs move through your body. And more than that, you're not just sitting through lectures and memorizing content. You're actually applying your theory into action. So in our lab-based modules, we synthesized compounds, ran analytical tests, and did cell-based assays. And a particular memorable experience was making our own tablets in one of the laboratory courses. Yeah. So what we did is we varied the ratios of ingredients and made the tablets from scratch. And then we went to test how they dissolved under different conditions and how much mechanical stress they could stand before breaking. So this sounds like a small thing, but it made the concepts feel very concrete. And it helps me to understand why formulation matters and why getting those ratios right isn't just like a manufacturing detail, but something that directly affects whether a drug actually works in a patient's body. Something that I think is also quite unique to farm science, and this is something that I honestly didn't fully appreciate when I was choosing the program, is the cohort structure. So farm science is a small major, and the curriculum is built around a team-based learning system or called TBL. So what that means is that you are assigned to a group very early on, and you go through the majority of your modules with the same group of people from year one all the way to your final year. So it's not like some of the other majors where your tutorial groups will change every semester and you may never see the same faces again. So in fact, some of my closest friends now are people that I met through my TBL, and as you can see, we also traveled overseas together. And because we are working with the same people across so many different courses, there's a natural culture of like helping each other out. And I think this is something that is easy to overlook when you are comparing programs. But the social environment you study in really had a real effect on how much I enjoyed my undergraduate years. Yeah, so for me, having a close-knit cohort made a significant difference, especially during the more demanding semesters. So, moving on to about CHS, I had actually gotten my offer for farm science before NS, so I had quite a clear picture of what I was signing up for. And then while I was serving, I heard that the program had undergone restructuring and that farm science was going to be under CHS. And when I looked more closely at what had changed, I noticed that the number of major modules had been cut down by quite a bit, with a lot more unrestricted electives in their place. And my first reaction was honestly that I felt a bit uncertain because that the program I had accepted was quite different from what I was actually going to do. But then I decided to commit to it and pursued a second major in data analytics, as I felt that quantitative and computational skills were becoming increasingly relevant in pharmaceutical contexts. And I was also genuinely quite curious about it. So I figured that taking on this heavier workload was worth exploring. And looking back, I think I really benefited a lot from the opportunity to take this second major. So what I didn't expect was how well the two majors would actually complement each other. And they're not as like separate as they sound, uh, particularly for farm science and data analytics. So for me, farm science gives me like an understanding of the biological and chemical systems, while data analytics will trains you to deal with messy real world data and extract structure from it. I feel that having expertise in these two domains allows me to approach problems differently. Yeah, and there were definitely semesters where managing the workload required a lot of discipline, and but having two very different intellectual contexts to switch between kept things interesting for me. So, in summary, being able to take the second major helped to keep my undergraduate experience genuinely interesting. Okay. And then in the end of year two, I took an internship under the UPIT program at the Bioinformatics Institute in A-Star. So in this program, I worked on computational methods for predicting protein-protein interactions, which is right at the intersection of biology and computation. And this is particularly significant for me because for the first time I was using my knowledge from both majors in the same project and in a real-world research setting. And also what was different about research compared to coursework that I realized was the absence of a model answer. So like in coursework, even in the toughest modules, there is a correct solution somewhere, but in research, you're not even sure whether you're asking the right question yet. So the ambiguity was uncomfortable at first, but it's something that I came to appreciate. And this internship also clarified for me that working at the interface of biology and computation was something that I wanted to pursue seriously. Okay, and in year three, I went to UC San Diego for a semester, and beyond academics, it was genuinely one of the most memorable periods of my undergraduate life. So I did many things with my friends, such as watching NCAA basketball games, and drove out to the different national parks in US to explore. And most importantly, living alone in a different country and navigating in a life abroad teaches you things that I feel a classroom could never replicate. And this really helped to broaden my perspective by experiencing life overseas. So in UCSD, I actually took several data analytics modules to uh, cover my second major. But I think that's one thing that stuck with me wasn't the content, but about how people engage with the material outside of class. So when I was walking in the library and there are like whiteboards in common areas, and I can see people drawing on the whiteboards and very vocally explaining concepts to each other. And so the study sessions that I had there weren't like quiet, solitary things, but were conversations. And this made me aware of how much I actually can learn through that back and forth. And this is a habit that I feel I try to carry back with me as I return to Singapore. Okay, and after I came back from my exchange, I embarked on my final year project, which was where I felt everything started to converge, where everything that I learned so far could be put into use. For my final year project, I'm working on analyzing cancer genomic data and specifically looking at how certain ribosomal DNA alterations might contribute to disease development. So this project was quite interdisciplinary as it draws from biology knowledge from pharmaceutical science, quantitative methods from data analytics, and the research mindset I've developed during my internship. So in that sense, it felt like a test of like my whole undergraduate journey and not just the final year. And I think FIP was a very valuable experience for me and it shows how the gap between coursework and research is actually very different. So when you take courses, you are mainly just learning what is taught and applying it to given problems. But in my FYP, I'm actually driving the questions. So I decide what to look at next and think about how to interpret ambiguous results. And sometimes you have to go back and reframe what you were thought you were trying to answer. So it was challenging, but then it was also very meaningful for me. Yeah, so I'm very thankful for having a good supervisor and actually enough scope to work within that make a real difference in me staying on track. And yeah, I'm about to complete the project soon. So on the questions of what comes after farm science, the paths are genuinely quite varied. And I think that is something that is worth emphasizing because people sometimes assume that a science degree locks you into a narrow set of options. For example, you may think that need to do a PhD with a science degree. However, among my classmates, there are people heading into pharmaceutical sales and marketing, regulatory affairs, quality assurance, and yeah, some of them are also going to do graduate studies. So this degree actually gives me like a scientific foundation, but where you take this degree depends on a lot of the experiences that you build along the way through maybe internships or research or your second majors, for example. And personally, for me, I'm hoping to continue working at the intersection of data science and drug development, using computational methods to make sense of complex biological data. and eventually working on problems that connect back to patient outcomes. And this is a direction that I decided through the combination of experiences that I've described. And it wasn't something that I actually expected when I joined this course in year one. And lastly, if you are interested in the pharma industry, no matter which path you choose, I feel that pharm science will give you a versatile foundation to build from, as this program will expose you to the full drug development pipeline, equip you with practical experience, and connects you to a research and industry ecosystem that can open doors for you. So if you are also unsure about what to do, you don't need to have everything figured out before you start. But if you come in curious and willing to explore, pharm science will actually give you a lot to work with. And with that, thank you for listening to my presentation. I'm happy to chat more about any of this. Yeah, so if you have any questions about my second major experience, exchange, etc., you can feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and we can have a chat. Yeah, so thank you, and I'll pass the time back to Prof. Chan.